I'm Stefania Jimenez, and this is photojournalist Adam Barraza. We are very happily on our way to Kerrville, a city of 24,000 people in hill country. We're so excited to go. When you take a ride up here, it's just a pretty ride. You see all the hills that make up Texas hill country. It's really green, really open, and I'm told that we should expect the same thing from a business where we're going right now. It's called the Pint and Plow in Kerrville, as it's a coffee shop, also a brewery, a place where people go and eat. It's also a neighborhood hangout, and I'm told that it is sort of representative of the town of Kerrville, a town of 24,000 people that's changed a lot in recent years. There's this perception that Kerrville is a town where a lot of retirees live. I'm told that's not necessarily the case. There are a lot of younger people moving in, young families moving into Kerrville, and so it's really changing the city. And also, it's got a thriving art scene, which I'm very excited to see. And so I want you to come along and keep an open mind.
What is there not to like about Kerrville? You know, we've got great sunrises, awesome sunsets. We've got the Guadalupe River, great restaurants, friendly people. You have friends that you've made for a lifetime. I can't or don't know if I wanted to live anywhere else. This is where I always wanted to be. I was born and raised here, and this is home. When I was a child, it was about maybe 10,000 people. But you could lay down and roll and get to anywhere you wanted to get to Kerrville in 5 minutes. Now, that's been a big change, because we do have traffic now. Nothing like y'all have in San Antonio, but for a small town, it does add up. We have more businesses now than we've had before. We have a lot more young people coming in with new ideas.
Kerrville's a lot more diverse than probably Kerrville knows, but I think it's because, you know, we live in a time where, well, we live in a post-time where I think you don't always talk about those things, right? You don't talk about politics and religion, you keep them private. Mm-hmm. But I think by talking about them, that's how you find out that you might have more in common than not.
If you look at how Kerrville votes, especially on a national election, right? I mean, it is very fair to say that Kerrville is a Republican county. Mm-hmm. But if you're on the streets and you're going about your day-to-day business, you know, you're going to work, you're going to school, you're going to church, that level, you know, that kind of national level of thinking and of fighting is not what you're going to encounter on a day-to-day level. I think most people, you know, when they're going to church and they're sitting down next to someone, the conversation doesn't immediately start with who you're voting for in the national election. It's like, oh, well, how is your mother doing? I heard she was sick. Or how's your kids doing in school, you know? Or, you know, it's always topics that are relevant on a much more local level.
Do you feel like people here are divided?
I think sometimes, but I think I've seen this community, even if they've not agreed on everything, come together on the things that matter. And I think it's more important to focus on those things.
Is an example of that what happened a few weeks ago with the flooding?
Yes.
Something like more than a dozen homes flooded?
Yes. And we saw that impact Ingram. Ingram, you don't really know when you get out of Kerrville and into Ingram. We're so close together, but very distinct, different communities. I'm lucky in my job that we obviously, our first priority is Kerrville, but we promote Kerrville, Kirk County. So that includes Ingram. And so we stay up to date with what's going on there, but watching the flooding happen, which it's known to flood. We're in a floodplain. It's just because we have to have all the right rain to happen. Watching that happen and then everybody come together to help people, you know, either if their housing flood, that they had somewhere safe to go, their vehicles got washed out, they lost things. Everyone coming together, because the greater good is that we're all okay. Mm-hmm. And I think when it really matters, you see that happen.
Things in life have to go through challenges and to make it get better. And if you never face challenges, you never know what's wrong. And that's what we're going through now. And I think it's going to be tremendously good for the country, for people to pull together instead of pulling apart.
Talk to me about that.
They get too caught up in stuff. They forget people, everybody's human, everybody's just alike. You can't criticize, you can't, you know, it doesn't make you look better to make them look small. It doesn't work that way. And they just, down here people seem to be a little more trusting, I guess is a word, with each other than what I've seen in other, I lived in Boston for 9 years, and they're so different than here. I mean, it's night and day. Well, you were up in that end of the world. But I'm hoping that the family values come back. You know, let kids be kids.
When you vote this November, what are you going to be thinking about? What's motivating you?
Honestly, the economy is probably the toughest, but people have to learn to live within their means. You don't have to have the biggest house, the fanciest car. Worry about putting food on the table and doing. Yeah, it's hard. I raised 3 boys, and they all have college degrees. We owned a small hardware store in San Antonio in the family for 118 years that we closed right at COVID because the government was shutting us all down. So we just sold out and retired. And we traveled around a bit, but we landed here, and I live in an RV in a resort out here for the last 7 years, and I love it.
Do you know who you're going to vote for this November?
Yeah. Trump.
Your mind's already made up. Did you vote for him the last time as well?
Yep. I will be honest, as a person, I don't care for him. He gets too radical in putting people down. I don't believe in putting people down to make me look better. But money-wise, the man knows how to make money. And right now, if this country doesn't get straightened up, we're going to be in Venezuela living.
You can have differences and still like each other. And I think that's what we have here in Kerrville. You know, that there are different political parties, and we do have different ideals and ideas. But when you come together, you can put those different ideas aside for the good of the town. And I think that's what people do.
What are you concerned about?
Low-income housing.
What about it?
I think that we don't have enough. We don't have very much at all. I would like to see our younger people take advantage of the opportunities that we have right now. Because there's more to life than just Kerrville. And a lot of them, they grow up and they don't leave. And so those opportunities are just gone. And we are a small town, and we don't. And I would hate for our kids to grow up and leave, but they have to do that in order to have a good life for themselves, because job opportunities are not always here. If you're not a teacher, if you're not in the medical field, if you don't own your own business, it may be a little bit difficult to make a living.
Was it difficult for you as a teacher?
No. I was born and raised here. So I knew a lot of the people, and I had the support of the families when I was teaching. So I don't think it was difficult at all. But that's one of the advantages of growing up in a small community. You know, people know who you are, and you know who they are, and they know what your values are.
What are your values?
Family, faith, and friendship.
So you said that you are going to vote, because that is important to you.
Yes.
Do you already know who you're going to vote for?
Yes.
Okay. Are you comfortable telling me who you're going to vote for?
I'm going to vote Ms. Harris. And the reason why I'm going to vote for her is that I feel like she's the best person for the country. I don't vote a political party. I always vote my conviction, who I think can best run America.
When was the last time you voted for a Republican?
President Bush.
Do you know who you're going to vote for?
Yes.
Okay. Who is that person?
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. Okay. Why?
Because I believe he has the American people best interest at heart. I understand the condition of the world. It's in a terrible state. But so are we at home. And if we plan to help anyone else, we have to help from inside out. You know, you don't work from the outside in. That's what I believe. What I think about most is how the election divides the nation every 4 years. It just puts the communities against each other. You know, it's either one way or the other way. No one's right in the middle, I believe, speaking for small towns. That's what I worry about. Everyone's struggling now. It's apparent. I feel for the single mother with children, taxes, grocery bills, just day-to-day living. It's very, very taxing.
How are you living?
For myself, I'm doing fine. I'm a single man, so it's okay. But for someone who has a family to provide for, it's very difficult.
I don't identify as a Republican. I don't identify as a Democrat. And one thing that's so frustrating and really turns me off with politics in general is that two-party outlook. How often in any conversation that truly matters is it that black and white, where you either are this way or you are that way, and there is no in between? Like, how often is that ever like the way to go about things, the way to live life, the way to develop meaningful relationships, right? So I can't say that if I look at Donald Trump, say that guy is my leader, or if I look at Kamala Harris, that person represents everything I'm about. Not even close. So the fact that there's no kind of centered politician that represents my values makes politics in general very frustrating. And so when it comes to voting, it can be kind of a difficult thing to do sometimes, you know?
The people of Kerrville are so united. You get the sense that no matter what happens in November, this town is going to continue to look and feel the same way. What do you think? Let's keep this conversation going and join us for our next episode of Your Voice South Texas.